Nader here, and today we're going to look at how to change the stem out on your bike. Before we get into that, I really appreciate your viewership, so make sure to subscribe so you see all the other great videos that I'm coming out with on the regular. So on majority of stems, we have 7 points of contact. The first 4 are for the faceplate, holding the handlebars in front, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then keeping the handlebars at the angle that you want. The other 3 are in the back, basically holding on to the fork. So we have the top cap, which pulls the stem down into the bike and pulls the fork up into the bike. And then we have the 2 tension bolts in the back that are clamping the stem tight so that it stays in line with the fork and the front wheel. So I like to start first by taking the handlebars off the stem to get them out of the way. In this case, I'm using a 4mm Allen wrench to take off the 4 front bolts in the front face cap. All right, now that all 4 bolts are off, let the handlebars just hang nice and mellow on the front wheel and put the cap and the 4 bolts down to the side. Now we have 3 more bolts on the back. I like to undo these 2 back bolts first, then do the top cap, because sometimes the tension of these 2 bolts can keep the top cap from wanting to loosen up. So if you loosen these 2 first, it makes it easier sometimes to take off the top cap. And you don't have to undo these bolts all the way, we just loosen these 2 bolts. Once those bolts are loose, now we can take off the top cap. Usually, the top cap is a different size bolt than the other 6. So this is a 6mm bolt, so I need a bigger wrench. Top cap comes off, put that to the side, and then now that these 2 are loose, I hold on to the front wheel, and then you can just give it a little wiggle, and off comes your stem. So like most things, dismantling and taking it off is the easy part. It's putting it back together correctly that can be a little bit more challenging and more difficult. So I'm going to take you step by step on how to correctly put your stem back on and make sure everything is tight so that the fork is being pulled up into the frame, the stem is being pulled down into the frame, and that the front wheel and the stem are aligned and not in the wrong direction. So when putting your stem back on, wiggle it down onto the steer tube. Then the first step is to take the top cap and screw the top cap on. The top cap is connected directly to the fork, so it's pulling the fork up into the frame and pushing the stem down into the frame to create that tension. If you're feeling a little click when you hold the front brake in the wheel and in the stem, usually it's because the top cap isn't tight enough. So what you do, loosen these 2 back bolts, tighten the top cap as much as it needs it, and then you tighten these 2 back bolts again, and usually that click should be gone. So when tightening the top cap in, you want to make sure it's nice and tight and snug, but you don't have to be Hulk and screw it down until something breaks. Make sure that there's no play in the front end, but you still obviously can move the stem around because we haven't tightened these 2 back bolts yet. Step number 2 is I'm going to put the handlebars back on the stem and tighten the front cap. I like to put all 4 bolts in, but still have it so I can adjust the front end. So you want to make sure that obviously the center of the handlebars is in the center of the stem. And then after that, we want to make sure that the handlebars are at the angle we would like them. And then finish tightening things up. So now that the faceplate is back on, we have the handlebars centered in the center of the stem, and then we have the angle of the handlebars and the hoods in the place we want them. The last thing we have to do is tighten the 2 back bolts. So in tightening these 2 back bolts, we want to make sure that the center of the stem is aligned with the center of the wheel, and then we tighten them up. And lastly, once everything's tightened up and set up the way you want it to, I like to give it a little check by lifting up the front wheel, grab the front brake, and give it a wiggle in front to make sure that there's no clicking in the front headset. So I hope you found that helpful on how to change out your stem and make sure it's tightened up correctly. If you have any further questions, don't hesitate to shoot me an email at longbeachbikefit@gmail.com and I can make sure to answer all of your questions. Thanks again for watching, and make sure to subscribe for other tutorial videos and exciting fun adventure videos that I have coming up.